Hello, team players, and welcome to Wildcard Weekend. Today, we're going to be discussing all six games and the unique factor that, for the first time ever, all six wildcard games are a rematch of the first time they played each other in the playoffs. Four of which have played each other within the last 4 weeks. Absolutely incredible. So much great data going into this week, and we're going to break down bets that not only we think are good, but we have already put our money on. We're putting our money where our mouth is, and this is local football flavor.
Welcome to Local Football Flavor, where we talk to local fans to get the real information of what's going on with their team.
So sometimes clicking's hard, guys. I can't tell you that otherwise. But welcome, Bob. So I figured we got to do these in order. It's the easiest way to do it, no bias. So starting with the Seahawks-Niners, obviously division game, played each other twice. The Hawks lost both of them. I have a couple of bets here that I'm excited for, but I want to give you the floor and setting stage here for the Hawks.
So two things. When we spoke to our guest Madonna, we did say that the Seahawks were going to make the playoffs, but they struggled to get into the playoffs. They did not go. They did not go quietly. They ended up getting in, but it wasn't pretty. However, when it comes to these rematches and teams playing three times, you tend to want to give the edge to the team that has previously won twice, and that's what FanDuel is doing here.
Sure.
There is in my mind, there's no reason why San Francisco should lose because they have essentially the same team. Their coach is very versed. There's nothing outwardly wrong with anything that San Francisco is doing right now. They're controlling the ball. They're controlling the clock. They are passing when they need to. They're putting Purdy into situations that he is going to be successful in. They're doing it without Deebo Samuel. They're a great team. Now, where I will say that I tend to want to say that Seattle. I'm going to give Seattle the edge in this game, though. However, because you now have had two games to find out what didn't work.
Sure.
Two games against the same team to find out who your matchups were, what didn't work, how I can do better. And I tend to go with the team that has they all have a lot to play for, but
playoffs, there's something higher.
Pete Carroll is a legendary coach, right? He's one of the coaches that if he were to be on the market today, all 31 teams that he's not a part of would be chomping at the bit probably to get him. Now,
pretty much, yeah.
Pete Carroll is not a guy that wants to lose three times to the same team. He is going to make adjustments, and he probably is game planning in lots of different ways. Now, the wild card here is Mitchell is back, so you have to game plan for him as well. But for me, that 9.5 on Seattle, really, really a lot of points there. Now, if you took TCU in Monday's game, you're probably like 13 points. That's a lot for TCU. TCU is a pretty good team. But Georgia was just so much better this year. Now, same could be said about this game. It's not going to be a blowout, but San Francisco has proved time and time again that their defense is taking them to into the stratosphere.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Seattle
and the running game. I mean, that's how you win football. Don't let the other team be on the field, and when they are, hit them hard.
And Seattle, though, their running game is good, not great. It's good. Their passing game is good. Their defense is good. So I'm really on the fence here. But what I will say before we turn it back to you is Seattle +9. But I'm plus 9.5. But I'm also interested in Geno Smith's yardage. because
So am I. That was going to be one of my bets I want to call out here. So which direction are you going with it?
And Brock Purdy for that. If those
Mhm.
yardage totals are anywhere, or if it's like 195, taking the under might not be a bad play because these defenses are so good.
Well, for me, one of the things that we always want to make clear is not all these bets are going to be your standard spread money line over under. Going to be diving into a lot of different things that are kind of universal in all sports books. We're using FanDuel here, obviously, but the player passing yards, I am pretty aggressively into the Geno Smith under. In his last 3 games, all games or 2 of the 3 games they won, he hit less than 227 yards. The 2 games against San Francisco, he went under 1 and over 1. So I look at the 5 most relevant games to this game. 4 of the 5 of he's under, but more so importantly, I don't think he's going to be on the field very much. I think that Seattle really, when they break their team down and are honest with themselves, recognize they're a better running team than a passing team. Tyler Lockett is 100% a sheep in wolf's clothing. And at the end of the day, unless he's throwing the ball to Metcalf, there's not a reliable answer out there. So if I'm Pete Carroll and I want to win this game, I want to win it almost playing San Francisco style. We're going to put Walker on the field. We're going to run it down his face, and we're going to show that my defense is better at stopping the run than their defense. And at the end of the day, all of that adds up to me being a Geno Smith under of 227.
Yeah, and honestly, to tell you the truth, and we can look up the stats here for Brock Purdy, but I think in what we feel this, in what it feels like this game script will be, can you pull up the game log for the past 2 Seattle games versus San Francisco, please?
So
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just go.
Geno Smith's game log against the Niners. First game.
Go to the last game versus the Niners because that's the most recent.
The previous game against the Niners, he throws for 237. That was his over. Yeah. The first game of week 2.
Can you click the 21-13, please?
Sure.
Because I want to see the game log here. So go to the box score. And that 220 line it's right on the money, right? It's right on the money. These 2 players, I think if San Francisco's going to win, Purdy.
And remember, that was a Thursday night game in Seattle.
Right. If San Francisco is going to win this game, they're going to shove it down their throat with Mitchell and McCaffrey.
Yes.
For this reason, taking the under on Brock Purdy would not be a bad play either. Now, depending on the rushing yards for McCaffrey and Walker and Mitchell, I would be interested, if you are a person that does lays, I would be interested in a Brock Purdy under, Geno Smith under, Kenneth Walker over, Christian McCaffrey over. And
all right, well, let's start clicking these here.
I would be curious.
So make sure I got this correct for you. Both quarterbacks under, McCaffrey and Walker over.
Yeah. I mean, McCaffrey
the thing I love about that bet is that is 100% congruent. It is playing with itself. It is playing with the all probable game script. It's 75 yards on the ground for McCaffrey is, of the 4 of them, the one that I'm most worried about. And the reason for that is
Elijah Mitchell.
It's Elijah Mitchell. And it's also McCaffrey is a total yards guy and not just rushing yards.
But here's the thing with McCaffrey.
That's my fear with any pass catching running back, actually.
McCaffrey could break this off in one play.
That's also true. McCaffrey has big play potential, and the Niners revolve around it.
This could be because you're playing to win the game. So Both teams are playing to win the game. McCaffrey will not come out of this game unless he is hurt or tired.
No, and that's true. Let's put it this way: this game is the playoffs. Because it's the NFL, it's not going to be like the college football national championship where people start getting pulled in the third quarter because it won't get that far apart.
And out of these,
but it is like it in the sense that you're going to hit desperation mode and try stuff if you're starting to lose.
Between those two quarterbacks, though, if I were to say, these lines are right on the money. If I were to say which one of those quarterbacks may go over their line, I would tend to err on Geno Smith's side because I think that they're the team that's going to be behind in the fourth quarter. So
I agree with that. I just don't believe at the end of the day they will be on the field long enough to accrue that much yards.
That's perfectly acceptable.
I think that's the answer.
If you go with that, I'm curious. Continue to go up. If you go to the anytime touchdown play with this, if you were to see a defensive touchdown for the Niners,
anytime touchdown scorer, Bob. Who do you want on it?
I would say the Niners defense. Now,
that's bold.
The reason I say this is because the Niners, and it's the same reason, it's just the same reason that we're going off, is that the Niners have won these two games. The Niners defense could come out complacent, but it could come out firing on all cylinders. If it does happen to come out firing on all cylinders, this is Geno Smith's first playoff game. This is Brock Purdy's first playoff game. The atmosphere, no matter if this has been a divisional match that they've seen these teams before, the atmosphere of a playoff game will make two quarterbacks that are rookies to a degree, because Geno Smith is not a rookie, but
Geno Smith's the first time or not a rookie.
This is the first time it's ever happened. Those types of quarterbacks are capable of making mistakes. And if you look at Geno Smith, he's not the type of guy that is necessarily going to throw the game away or throw like really terrible passes. But I'm more thinking of a fumble recovery, a special touchdown, a special teams touchdown, things like that, where I feel that the Niners will take it. Now, you don't have to put it in a late. I mean, you could avoid. I mean, people tend to avoid touchdown ones altogether because they're so hard to predict.
Sporadic, yeah.
But out of these players, if we were to say who's going to score a touchdown in this game, George Kittle feels like a trap, but he's been on fire, right? When they get close to the red zone, who does Geno throw it to? Well, he throws it to tight ends like Kobe Parkinson, right? When they're going to get down, I mean, McCaffrey getting a touchdown seems plausible, but his odds are, not that great. So when you're looking at these touchdown scorers, it just has this way of telling me, okay, with one, it feels like this game could be low scoring, but it could also be one of those games where it's like 21-20 or 28-26, something like that. You know what I'm saying?
I do. The one thing you do need a note for the defense, that does not include returns. So if you get a kick return to the house or punt return, that's more of a general thing, not necessarily applicable to San Francisco. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, Geno Smith has becoming unraveled as the season went on. The pressure did seem like it was crunching him, and like any other team, you go as far as your quarterback takes you. There was a point in the middle of the year when Geno could do nothing wrong, and Seattle was a shoe into the playoffs. He crumbled. The team crumbled around him. I mean, the defense scoring obviously turns your parlay into another stratosphere. Just for the record, you have a Hunter on that, you're getting paid $10,000. You take the defense out of it, you're only getting paid $1,200. So it's certainly the risk reward of it. But at the end of the day, it's something that we got to look at. And then for my final bet here of this Niners game, what I want to point out to it is where I like to go. It's a little bit different, off the beaten path. And to clear all of these here for you, I do a scoring bet that I believe is one of the best kept secrets in all of gambling. You normally got to go to your scoring tab here at the end, but it's called the four-way margin. And basically, at the end of the day, do you believe this game is going to be a blowout or not? And the odds here are telling you that San Francisco is going to win by 14 or more. That's why they have the lowest odds. But anytime, and this is sportsbook knowledge, you're dealing when there's more than two options, the amount of juice against you decreases. So I like to pick ones that have more than two options whenever possible. So in my case, I am sitting right here, and I think Niners are going to win. I don't think it's a blowout. I'm getting paid plus money. And the plus 145 is a place where you only need to be right 40% of the time. It's a very safe situation, and you're actually going with what the sports book's already telling you. That spread hits perfectly. San Francisco by 8, 9, or 10, which is the probability of it. You're right there collecting plus payout. So that's why I personally love this bet, especially for this game. I don't see them blowing out a divisional opponent. These are two coaches that actually do respect each other. They're not yelling what's their deal at each other like back in the day in his Harbaugh. This is actually a good matchup. I think it's going to be close. And I do believe with you here, Bob. I think the Niners win it, especially in San Francisco. I don't think it becomes a blowout. This is my biggest bet individually of any of the six that we covered here in the Niners 13 or less.
And the line for this game is set at 9.5 at this point in time. That 9.5 falls strictly in line with this bet. If you think they're going to win, if you think Seahawks are going to cover 9.5, then you should also bet this bet.
Regardless of whether you're taking the points or not, the joy of the four-way margin is that if you feel Vegas is right in their line, you just take where the line puts you. And it's a default system that I rely upon a lot, and it's very profitable because for those who look at statistics, you do get the standard deviation with spreads, and the standard deviation for most spreads is 4 points, which means 2/3 of the time it is going to be plus or minus 4 points of what the final spread ends up being. In that case, it's all 13 or less. That's why anytime there is a spread between 4 and 9, I love doing this, or 4 to 9.5. I love doing it. It's a fantastic bet, and why I encourage it to all those.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing that I was saying with that too, to go off what you had pointed out, is that if you are thinking that the Niners are going to win this game, and you basically have 3 bets on the table, and you wouldn't bet the money line. One would be Seahawks by 9.5, because the only way, if you bet that plus this one, San Francisco by 1 to 13, and the spread from San Francisco. So say you put in those 3 bets right there. You then only saying it goes the way we think. Saying it goes the way we think. Your only losses in there would be if Seattle wins by more than 13.
I like keeping it the way it is because it gets a little convoluted. Plus, it's a game-by-game basis. Sometimes the four-way margin is allowed in the same game parlay. Sometimes it's not.
In this game, if you're going to bet that four-way margin, you might as well bet Seahawks plus 9.5.
No, the reason I don't like doing that.
Or Niners minus 9.5.
That's part of why it's not always worth a same game margin. You would lose this parlay if the Niners win by 11.
I'm not saying as a lay. I'm saying as individual bets.
Gotcha. I like doing just the one bet and making it bigger, putting more units on it. So with that being said, that's our takes. That is our 6 official bets here for the Niners to rewrite them out here for you. We had player yardage, 2 unders, rushing yardage, 2 overs, and then your anytime scorer being the Niners defense. And then to show these all out, it cannot be turned into a same game parlay, as I said before, but this is your overall bets for the San Francisco game. And listen, I'm really confident. The under on the Geno Smith is probably my second most confident of that group.
Screenshot that.
Oh, they're all screenshotted, Bob. I'm not messing around. That being said, let's go to our second game here.
The Jacksonville Jaguars, our team. And for those of you that are on Twitter and follow, go follow Interjag. He also has a YouTube station. Interjag has been saying for the whole year, he's a fan of the Jaguars. We're hoping to get him on the show, but Interjag has said all year he's trusted Trevor Lawrence, trusted the team, even during the bad stretch of time that they were having. And he predicted this record with the correct game and basically did it in September, right? And the Jaguars Twitter actually tweeted out at him as well. So in honor of that, I am really thinking hard about this game because
I need to start with an up front. I think the line is backwards. I believe Jacksonville should be the favorite in this game. And that's going to guide a lot of my bets I'm about to talk about, but that's my starting point.
This line is going to change. There's going to be a lot of movement on this line come the weekend. I mean, we're doing it on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday come around. This line is going to change by Saturday morning, guaranteed. Now, whoever you are confident in, and you may want to, so if you are a Jaguars fan and you think the Jaguars are going to win this game, I would see what teasing giving 2 points or 3 points to the Chargers would be. I'd be curious in that for the strict reason that I don't think this game will be a blowout at all. And same thing goes for your margin. You're 1-3 or you're 1-13. I don't think this game is going to be a blowout at all. If you are a Jaguars guy, this time you are getting points that I don't think by Saturday you are going to be getting points.
No, I think it's going to be a pick 'em by the time we get there. I think it should be a pick 'em now, quite frankly. I see no way of justifying the Jaguars getting points and being a dog in this game. I believe Jacksonville is going to win this game, and there's more than just the underlying fact the Chargers are going to charger it up, which I believe will happen. But the actual evidence behind it is they keep getting hurt, and Mike Williams is hurt again. They played everyone against Denver, which if you watch the DFS show, I thought no way in hell they would have done that. And they did, and Williams ends up getting hurt. Allen gets a little
Denver
nicked
was
up.
going to win that game.
You did, but I didn't think it was going to be against Herbert. So with all of that being said, Jacksonville is coming off of a national spotlight game where Lawrence did not look good. Fact, that can't be discouraged. Lawrence was one of the best quarterbacks during the regular season. It just so happened because he's on the Jaguars, people only watch him 3 times a year. That guy on tape is drastically better than what that final game showed when we're looking at the last 5 games in aggregate. I think this is a situation where the public is just being swayed because of what they saw leading in on the Saturday night game last week. I think that I don't see him failing twice.
And this also is affected by what Denver did to the Chargers as well.
See, to me, it's ignoring that because the Chargers weren't a national game. Most people didn't watch the Denver game. Most people had the Philly on instead because that was what CBS chose to do, which rightfully so.
The reason I say that, though, is because the Chargers would be a heavier favorite by like 5.5.
That's possible.
If they would have won that game.
Or if Michael Williams wouldn't have been hurt.
Right.
So
I see this. If everything was sunshine and roses and Mike Williams was playing this game, definitely. Or if there's a lot of ifs, but if everything was sunshine and roses, this spread logistically would be the Chargers giving 5.5.
Yeah, that feels right. 5.5 or 4.5. Yeah.
For that reason, if you are going to bet any singular team in this game, I don't know if you looked at the teaser or not. That Jacksonville won the 13.
That's what I'm on.
Feels good.
Yeah. To cut the chase there. Absolutely. I believe Jacksonville's winning the game outright. The fact that, and again, you guys got to scroll to try to get to the 4-way margin. It's kind of hidden, but it is so worth when you're there. And at 175, because the other part is this game, if Jacksonville wins it, Jacksonville doesn't blow people out. It just doesn't happen. It's not how they're coached in the second half of this year. So when these two teams played each other, they played each other in September. Eons ago. It was the Chargers blowing out the Jaguars. At that point, the Jaguars offense didn't really have a system yet. And San Diego was just turning everything back on from their success of last year. In a lot of ways, the 2022 and the 2021 Chargers were just rolling back the same team. And it's a lot easier to get your offense rolling in the beginning of the year when that is the case. And they rolled the Jags. There's no way around it. Jacksonville is not the same team that they were in September. And you can make a very strong argument the Chargers are significantly lower. Now, I don't believe that the two of them have gone from a 30 to 12 point victory, I believe, down to 2. I think that it would be a 4. But I just look at everything in net. Jacksonville at home, I believe that the loss of Williams is massive. And I'm just laying on the guy who's went first overall instead of 5th. I think this is going to be, to me personally, my favorite game to watch of the weekend. I am so fascinated to see how Herbert and Lawrence duel with each other, and I just want to see it go. But I do, at the end of the day, think Jacksonville pulls it out at the end, mostly because the worst unit on that field, without a doubt, is the Chargers defense. And when you look at something that's glaring from the other three, I think it's the end of it.
So here's two things here. If, in fact, Mike Williams doesn't play, that's one aspect of it. However, if Joey Bosa doesn't play as well, that is another game changer.
If Joey Bosa doesn't play, the spread will flip.
That spread will flip instantly. Now, they're both, people say, oh, they're going to play, oh, they're getting healthy or whatnot. This game might be a game that if you're going to bet it, you might want to bet it Saturday morning or Saturday at like 3 o'clock so that you have all the information that you need to.
Trade-off is you're not going to get this kind of juice, though. You just won't.
You're definitely not. But the fact remains that if you're definitely feeling the Jags, or if you're definitely feeling the Chargers, if you're definitely feeling the Jags, you bet the Jags now.
Yeah, if you're feeling the Chargers, you wait.
If you're definitely feeling the Chargers, you wait that out. You don't mess around with it. Now, in terms of player props.
Yeah, let's go to these because there's some fun ones. There's some lines that are flat out wrong on this on what FanDuel has right now. Let's see the ones you found, and we'll go with the ones I found.
One of the lines that I am interested in is Austin Eckler's total yards.
Okay.
Austin Eckler's total yards. I got to find it myself here.
That's going to be under player props.
So if we go total yards, or even just rushing and receiving, we can go with both, I guess. Because in the NBA they do it together, but I don't think they do it together here.
No, not normally.
Game specials. So there's a bunch of game specials. I'm sure there's.
I went through the game specials. There's some of them that are very intriguing. For the record, for everyone out there who watched that college national title game, I was on 6 touchdowns in each half, paying out, I believe it was 5,000, and it was very, very on pace until they started pulling everyone from Georgia. I wish Georgia would have just said we're winning by a million, because Georgia could have covered it by themselves. Side stories.
Oh, they don't even have that prop up. That's interesting. They don't even have an Eckler receiving prop up.
Eckler, when we go to player receiving yards, is not listed. ETN is the one who's listed.
Well, that's disappointing.
It is what it is.
So Eckler is a guy that we have been, everybody's been talking about all year. He is an enigmatic player. He's been crushing it. And so when was the last time that he's been in the playoffs? Never? Once?
This is the first time Herbert's in the playoffs. This is the first time. Yeah, this is the first time that Core is in the playoffs. Okay. Long story short.
So he's got some interesting things happening with him. So his line is at 50 right now.
50,
now,
yeah.
He can easily not make that and do it by...
He'll do it in the air. I mean, he'll put up 100 total yards. The question is where this is my problem with the pass catching running backs, because
that is why I was looking for a total as in, in the NBA, they do rebounds and assists or something like that. Right. So if one does come up, or if Austin Eckler ends up coming up on the line of receiving, I would take his over in receiving.
Well, what's the number that you would take it above?
I would take it if it's sitting at like 60.5, I would take the over. If it's like at like 75 or 80, I would be a little bit cautious with that one.
So you see this as an Eckler swing pass game?
I see it as a game where they're going to have to get them going, because the Jaguars defense, as we've proven and as we've said before, is very quick, but very much an opportunistic defense, but one that can make a lot of mistakes, and they can get bit by those mistakes. And Austin Eckler is the type of guy and the type of player that will make you pay for that.
Absolutely.
The other line that I'm interested in this game specifically is Christian Kirk's line.
He is at 57.5.
57.5. Now, we have seen in the games in the past with when Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, and Evan Ingram have all been healthy and all been playing with one another, that there is a wide variation in his stats. But I just feel, and I see it. It's not just a feeling. I see it on the field when he is in a tough situation. When Trevor Lawrence is in a tough situation, he's going to try to get the ball to Christian Kirk.
Normally. And
this game is one of those things where Trevor Lawrence, first time in the playoffs, Justin Herbert, first time doing playoff stuff, this is going to have a lot of heat to it. And I could easily see the first half being one of those, okay, we're going to feel each other out kind of things. But Christian Kirk is the type of player that is exactly what Trevor Lawrence needs to feel out this defense. If you test him with Kirk rather than with Zay Jones, for example, that is going to provide you with a little bit of insight with how the game is going to go. Now, Zay Jones is sitting at 48.5. And he is his fluctuates even more than Christian Kirk's does. And so if they're winning this game, with Trevor Lawrence and staying in it with Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler, these two guys are getting the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And so if you're uncomfortable with the yardage, you can look at his reception totals. And if Christian Kirk's reception total is set,
the reception total is not written yet. It's not listed yet.
When that comes up, if that total is like sitting at 4, I think if the Jaguars
Christian Kirk's getting 7 catches at least.
I think if the Jaguars win this game, he's going over.
Mm-hmm.
Now, his last set of games has been 4, 3, 1, 6, 8, 2, 11, 8, going all the way back to November 13th.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been used less.
The Joneses have taken off. There's no doubt about that in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm. So that's.
But he still is their big dog. Don't get anything around it.
No, that's Zay Jones. That's Zay Jones's stats. If you're looking at Kirk.
Oh, Kirk is the big dog there.
Yeah, it's 6, 2, 3, 6, 5, 6, 4, 9, going all the way back to November 13th. And that's why I say they're probably going to set that line at about 4.5. When it comes out, I would be on the over, because if they're winning that game, that ball is going to Christian Kirk. And if they're going to Christian Kirk, I would take the over in receptions and the over in yards.
Yeah, and that's obviously what you want to pair them up together like that. I have 2 here that I think that both of the lines are just flat out wrong. And for those guys that love getting the low number over unders, so I'm going to throw this at you here, Bob, because I think that I know the first one is wrong. Travis Etienne's getting more than 15 yards in the air. For the last 5 games, he has gotten 17 or more every single game. And most of the time, it's on 3 or less catches. So he's not a heavy volume guy, but he just scatters around and he gets to 20 yards. He does it every game in the air. He's been on fire with it for the last 5 games. I think it's a poorly played line. This line should be somewhere around 19. And at 14.5, I can't get enough Travis Etienne in the air. The second one I'm really excited about is, for all the reasons you just said about Trevor Lawrence, first playoff game, might be a little bit jittery. Mm-hmm. Sometimes what those guys do is they run a little bit more. And Lawrence giving me 14 on the ground is an absolute steal. You'll get this on one scramble where he goes to the left and gets a first down. I mean, we see that across the NFL the whole time. This could be a parlay that you're paid out before the end of halftime. And just to throw that out there, I think it's a very great game. Both of those numbers, in my opinion, are way too low. And if Bosa plays, I think he runs for even more because he'll be running for his life. Remember, they don't take sack yards away from rushing in the NFL. They take it away from passing numbers. Mm-hmm. Just to also put that out there. So those are my 3 bets for this game. Jacksonville 1-13. Lawrence over 14 yards rushing, Etienne over 15 yards passing.
Mm-hmm. And mine, when they come out, will be Eckler over the total in receiving yards, over receptions on Christian Kirk, because it's going to come out. If it's 4.5 or 4.5, you go over, and Christian Kirk current over on yards. I think it's going to be a fun game.
Like I said, I think that's the best game of the weekend. I am really excited for that one. So let's move over here to the third one, the first one of the morning. How did they make the playoffs just to make me look bad? Miami Dolphins going to Buffalo. So we last saw these teams just a few weeks ago.
Let me preface this by saying Miami's getting shellacked. Miami is going to get absolutely shellacked. I do not know if Tua is playing this game, and I do not think it will make a difference whatsoever.
It will
Buffalo
not, and here's why.
Has momentum. And Josh Allen, whatever his line is, over.
Fair enough. So let's just fire that one. To end on the plot here, when Tua played in Buffalo during that snow game, I believe it was 3 or 4 weeks ago, Buffalo held the ball for the entire fourth quarter. Yes, Buffalo ends up winning that game just on a late second field goal. Buffalo controlled that entire second half. The other fun fact about the Dolphins, no team has blown more first half leads and lost the game than the Miami Dolphins. Now, obviously, that's a double-edged stat because you had to have a lead to be able to blow it. Don't see Houston and Chicago doing that. But the point still remains, no one loves losing games more once they have it in their hands than the Miami Dolphins.
So you're telling me that December 17th was a snow game against Miami?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
That was the game where they threw all the snowballs on the field. It started snowing in the fourth quarter.
He threw for 304 yards in that game.
Yeah, he did it all in the first half.
In snow.
Tyreek Hill caught a couple and went fast. And this is the reason why Miami's done now. Tyreek Hill and Waddle both got bottled up last game.
I'm saying Josh Allen threw for 304 yards in that game.
Oh, Josh Allen was unstoppable in the second half. Miami got cold and they wanted to go home. It was all over their faces across the board. And Diggs was just having fun with them. In some ways that were borderline flaggable and finable. But neither here nor there. You know what? Time out, Bob. I forgot my parlay cross team. I'll cover it in the last game. Sorry about that. It just hitting me here as I'm looking at this. But yeah, so to answer your question, unless Bridgewater is their starter, I do not see a scenario where Buffalo does not cover the spread. This is, in my opinion, most likely to be what they did to New England last year, where they just walk out there, say, welcome to the playoffs. We're winning the Super Bowl. We're starting with a 40-point win. Boom. And
yeah, Tua's out.
That's with that being said, like I said, I think they're better if Bridgewater plays in Tua anyway. And when I look around at it, the guy that I think is going to go off, and I know we have this debate every single week, but Gabe Davis at 50, he's one catch and that's covered.
I know, but that's such a bad bet.
That's because you don't like him. But I gotta tell you, go to Gabe Davis against Miami. He's there, and he has disappeared lately. That is fair. The last couple of games, he really hasn't shown up. I personally like knowing it just takes one. And
so he against Miami, he had 4 receptions for 56 yards, so he cleared that. But in every single game between that have been on the opposite side of that, against the Patriots on the 1st of December, 15 yards. Against the Jets, 31 yards. Against Chicago, 45 yards. Against New England, 39 yards. He was targeted 10 times against New England and only caught 3 of them. So what that tells me is that those targets are down the field. They're down the field targets. So if you're right, if he catches one, he's good.
It's done.
If Josh Allen's going over on this total, Gabe Davis is probably going to catch at least one. So I see it. I just don't like him. And if you're going to do that,
that's more of a you problem, Bob. I can't tell you anything other than that. Those are my 2 bets of this game, though.
And one of the ones that is actually would probably be an interesting one. I'm interested in the Diggs over as well.
Okay.
But I'm also interested in when Miami starts to give up. So if Miami gives up, will they continue to try to throw
that's
the
at
ball?
halftime, bro.
No, will they continue to try to throw the ball, or will they just run it out? Now, I know we said
on that being
teams don't like to give up in the playoffs, but Miami, one of the assets that allows them to win games and has allowed them to win games is when they're being honest with their run and allowing the players in, if they want Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle to be successful, they've got to get the run going. And if Mostert if Mostert's lying,
Mostert's not playing. Mostert's out.
Okay, Jeff Wilson then. They're interchangeable. It doesn't matter which one is playing.
Well, it's a big deal when one of the 2 of them is out. The other one will put up 80 yards.
So if their total rushing yards is not even up yet.
No. None of the Miami ones are up yet for 2 reasons. First is until the quarterback's declared, it's hard to do it.
Playing.
And the other part is you don't know if Waddle or Hill, what status they're at.
If Jeff Wilson is playing and the line is set at like 45 or 60, I would tend to lean the over on that.
Yeah, anything that is north of 64 or low 64 or lower, I would take the over on for Wilson. And Bob, it's basically everything you just said, because when Miami was in that game, Tua was basically doing his screen passes to Till. And he was forcing the ball to Hill. He got one to Waddle, but they were also running it. And if I'm looking at this, trying to be objectful, you cannot expect the third string quarterback, or frankly even Teddy, to keep you in this game by throwing it 50 times. And Miami has to come in here trying to repossess the ball, because, as I said, the entire second half of that game, Buffalo controlled it. Buffalo controlled it because they kept the ball. Miami had 2 3-and-outs, and that was all she wrote. And to avoid that, you got to run the ball.
And to be
it's
honest,
just the way it is.
To be honest with you, if you are going to go with Josh Allen over, Gabe Davis over, and a Buffalo win, if you think Buffalo is going to win by plus 13, I'd be curious if you tease that line to 20.
That's a very interesting part where I'm glad you went there. 20 is 2-1. 16, which, obviously not as big.
It's a big spread.
20.5 is a huge spread in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely huge.
But
you also make the argument, if you're doing it, why not make it 24? Just saying.
I don't think that game is going to be close. And you saw, the Jets have a pretty good defense. And I don't know, how would you compare the Jets defense to Buffalo's defense?
Oh, the Jets have the best defense in the division. There's no doubt about that.
So,
that's the best part of the Jets.
And the Dolphins.
But I don't think, if I'm looking at a total score difference, the difference between the two is at most a touchdown. So we're talking about Miami realistically, which I think is a stretch, putting up 17 points, and
what's
Buffalo could drop 35.
What's Josh Allen's touchdowns at?
Passing or just to score one?
Just passing, not rushing, passing. Is it up yet?
The TD scorer props.
No, go to passing props.
Not bad.
Because it should be in that.
The touchdown one's not out yet.
Because
all we have is what we have for him is
his
the
line
running
is
in
probably
version.
Be set at like 3.5.
Which
passing touchdowns probably gonna be set at 3.5. I'd be on the over at 4.
So with the over under being at 44, realistically, you got to assume that's 6 touchdowns and a field goal.
Miami misses field goals. Miami can't score touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's the playoffs, and I know their fans are going to be in it, but we saw what happened to TCU.
It's in Buffalo. They're going to be cold.
We saw what happened to TCU.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. For me personally, I live in one of two categories. The bigger wager is going to be at the 16.5. I love throwing the 20 in there though to get the
What's
2
the
to 1.
four-way at? What's the four-way at?
The 4-way margin is actually negative for Buffalo over 14.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because it's the spread. So if you think there is some way that they cover this spread, it's still going to be a Buffalo win. It's plus 160. But at minus 130, I'd rather go over 21 or more and put up the 2-1 payout.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, all of those bets are correlated. When Davis goes off, the Bills go off. And hard to fight that. That being said, that is the Bills. And as we said, probably the least entertaining game, in my opinion, this weekend, with Buffalo going to be absolutely destroying the Dolphins. Here's an interesting one. These guys just played each other, again, a few weeks ago. Many of the teams did, goes down to the wire. Giants super competitive in this, and lots of fun things happening here in this one, Bob. So let's start with your initial takes of what you think with the Minnesota Vikings hosting the New York Football Giants.
I think the Giants are going to win.
Ooh.
So here's the reason I say that is that the Vikings, I know that they're competitive because they have been in games and they take games down to the wire, but it's not because they did that on purpose. It's because they either played really terribly and they've had to get themselves back in that game to win. Now, who has the better team? I think, or who has the better offense?
The Vikings, no doubt.
The Vikings have the better offense. Who has the better defense? Giants.
Probably the Giants, yeah.
And with the Giants, they rested. They could come out sluggish, but they rested. Now, the Vikings are not a team that want to not give up a lead. They give up leads. So if the Giants can find a way to scrap their way back in it in the second quarter and into the half, you have two of the best running backs in the league on the field in this game, in Saquon Barkley and Dalvin Cook. You have one of the best young players in Kayvon Thibodeau out on the field right now. You have Azeez Al-Jalari on the Giants defense. You have a quarterback in Daniel Jones that we've been talking about all year that can make things happen with his arm and his leg. Kirk Cousins is one-dimensional, but he's good at it sometimes. So you have J. Jeff, who is phenomenal, probably going to go over 100 yards.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the few games where J. Jeff's not the undisputed best player on the field.
I'm not gonna fight that he's probably gonna go over 100 yards in that game. I'm not gonna bet it, but I'm not gonna fight that he goes over it. But the Giants, if you're taking the script that they have so much to play for, they do. And it's the first time that they've had this much to play for in a very, very long time. And the Vikings are a team to me that, like I said, they're not going to give up, but it's going to look like they have. And then they're going to come back, or they're going to be in it, and then they're going to, like, for me, a Daniel Jones touchdown rushing is not, anytime touchdown score is not out of the question. A Saquon Barkley over 80 yards, not out of the question here. I don't know what his line is. I think it's probably 80.
Let me give you all yours first here, Bob, before I do mine. Saquon's line is at 73, so you're definitely taking the over there.
Over on that because the defense of the Vikings is not very good.
He's also their best player in their pathway victory.
In the receiving props category, if you're going to receiving props, I am interested in a couple of these for a couple different reasons.
These guys have receptions up now. Good.
Yeah. So I am interested in the Adam Thielen under.
For yardage or?
For yardage. They haven't really been kicking it his way a lot lately. They have been kicking it Osborne's way lately, but he can, go.
He can disappear, though.
He can disappear. The Isaiah Hodgins over would be definitely very interesting. I wouldn't put it on a list. And the Richie James over is very interesting because in order to win this game, there is going to be some ball control, but Daniel Jones is going to have to complete some passes here. And those two wide receivers have shown in the last couple of weeks that they're his guys. And I would be interested, if you're not going to go with these yardage totals, right, for these receivers, what the touchdown and +2 touchdown is for Daniel Jones to run it in, because he is such a ball hog at the end zone that if they even get close to the red zone, I can see Daniel Jones running in 2 touchdowns.
All right, so let's do the 2 touchdown world. Take Danny off of that. I personally really like the J Jeff for 2 touchdowns this week. You see Danny here's a 1,200. And if you do everything you just said here, Bob, this is essentially the Giants special, right? This is Saquon 74.
Take Thielen out. Take Thielen out, so it's just Giants players in. Okay.
You're looking at a 12,000 bet.
But I don't think it's anything that can't happen.
No, that in terms of $12,000 payouts, that one is certainly on the possible side more than they should be. I will 100% give you that one. You will be sweating bullets in the second half if Daniel Jones is throwing in 20-yard touchdowns, but I'll give you that one. That could still happen, and the Vikings win.
Yeah, totally.
So mine goes a little bit different than yours, as can be expected. As I said, I did do JJ for 2. This is, in my opinion, this is really the anytime coming out. Mm-hmm. And since I'm allowed to correlate it, I also think one of those is happening in the first half. So Jeff 2 overall in the game, 1 in the first half. I think the game gets started hot and heavy through him. Overall,
I didn't even know you could bet first half touchdown, second half touchdown. That's interesting.
You can.
I'd be curious what Danny Dimes would have.
When we look at the actual yardage for their projection,
mm-hmm.
like I said, I think it's going off.
Mm-hmm.
2 touchdowns on 100. It's hard. First off, it's hard as a possession receiver, or not necessarily not a possession receiver, as a high volume receiver, not to get 2 touchdowns and not 100 yards. Mm-hmm. It's just flat out hard to do.
Yeah.
So with that being said, once you're accepting the world of he's getting 2 touchdowns, the over 100 isn't that crazy. So that to me is where I'm at in terms of the same game parlay. I also, as I mentioned, I'm on Minnesota. I do not see this one being a blowout. This one is the one where people sit down next week and be like, why was that the secretly decent game of the week? Well, because it's going to be. It was a good game the first time. It's going to be a good game the second time. 145 at the 13 or less, I find is tremendous value, and it's what I want to be on. So that is my weekend. Jeff heavy. Timeout. I forgot to put the obvious Kurt on there. Cousins also on his over. If you go back and see what Cousins has been doing lately, Kirk Cousins is basically ready.
Kirk Cousins hit 2 nights. So this game, I believe, is one of the only games where Daniel Jones, and I'm looking up the stats right now, so Daniel Jones has only had 2 games this year where he reached over 300 yards. One was Detroit, one was Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And that game was competitive throughout. And if you just take, I just want to see if you just take what happened in the last game between these 2 teams as something that happens in this game. Can you erase that so we can see what this might look like here?
Yep. So here, we'll erase my official.
Okay.
Game.
If you just take the guys that scored touchdowns in the last game, and you put Saquon Barkley as a touchdown scorer, Isaiah Hodgins as a touchdown scorer, TJ Hawkinson as a touchdown scorer, he had 2.
Which there is no way it'll be perfectly duplicated.
Yeah, I'm just playing around. Justin Jefferson at 1. Justin Jefferson had 1. Okay. If you just take that and you could flip-flop the Hawk with Jeff and do it the opposite direction there so that you feel better about it. That's
25,000, but you're calling 5 touchdowns, and to call 5 of them on a dime is hard.
Yeah. I mean, but logistically speaking, though, Isaiah Hodgins out of this list might not be the guy that scores a touchdown, but all three of those guys I feel if this game is being played, those guys are probably scoring.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that in terms of that. Any other bets you have for Minnesota and the J-Man?
I would tease the Giants 2.5. I would give the Vikings 2.5.
Well, right now it's at 3, so that's not really going to change much.
Well, they're not giving. Giants aren't giving.
Oh, you're going Giants to negative 2.5. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
That would take it to a plus 162.
Is that more than the money line?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Has to be.
Yeah.
The money line is 138. So
this was a field goal game last time. The Giants were on the short end of the stick. I think the Giants come out better this time, and I believe they win by 3. Now, knowing I said all that, Minnesota's probably going to win by 45. So
I have the game being close. I just have Minnesota pulling it out. At the end of the day, Saquon Barkley might be one of the few people that you say he's the most talented person on the field when it's not J. Jeff. So one of the very few times he will not be the undisputed most talented person on the field.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, the total package of Minnesota, I just believe in more than the Giants. Remember, the Giants do have a net negative overall scoring this year.
That's fine.
We go to the night game, which congratulations, Cincinnati. You made it to a primetime playoff game when there was options. So didn't quite seeing that happening. 8.5 spread. Lamar is going to be a game time decision, which to me means he's playing. So watching the two of them on Sunday, very interesting in the way this plays out.
Mm-hmm.
They already see the Buffalo won.
Mm-hmm.
Or not that it was official, but Buffalo was having that game in control every time we're doing scoreboard watching throughout it.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati jumps big in the first half. I mean, they basically get to the point where they're controlling the game. And then the second half of the game, Baltimore's defense took over. Cincinnati didn't do anything offensively. They were stifled, but they couldn't move the ball to save their lives. Mm-hmm. It became almost like watching Jets-Miami the second half of that Cincinnati Ravens game. It was a hard watch. There's just no other way to say that.
Mm-hmm.
And that defense had everyone on it last week versus, I mean, they didn't bench anyone. Cincinnati didn't bench anyone either. And that defense stymied them. I say this all to say that I don't think Cincinnati's blowing them out. And I think 8.5 might be too much. That being said, as I've told you guys before, I'm going to do the 13 or less because it gets much better juice than
Mm-hmm.
the spread. But division game, it's going to be close. Everything about statistics and analytics say if Lamar Jackson isn't playing, which the spread has baked into it, Cincinnati should blow them out. But that defense from Baltimore, and mind you, they just gave Roquan Smith a 5-year contract this week. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be insane. And I really do think that when we look at this, we're going to see ourselves a close game, probably an under. It's going to be stupid. I think that the Minnesota game will be more entertaining than this one. When it's
Here's fun information that I just saw via Yahoo. The Bengals are starting 2 backup offensive linemen in this game.
Which is how Baltimore's defense took over, by the way. It was all pressure on Burrow.
What you have said about the defense is the best unit on this field out of the 4. When they're on the field, which unit is the best? And tell me it isn't the Ravens defense.
I can't say it's not Chase. But see, here's the thing, though. Those two, Baltimore's defense, Cincinnati's offense, are so much better than 3 and 4 of Cincinnati's defense being 3 and Baltimore's offense being 4. Like, actually, if you would power rank them, 1 and 2 run away with this horse race by a mile. third is pretty distant, but fourth hasn't even left the tunnel yet. So Baltimore's offense is just absolutely useless. And
So
because
the
of that,
question comes in is
this game could be like 16-4 or 16
If-
to 6 rather.
if Jackson plays,
Jackson plays is different.
where do you see the spread ending if the news comes out that Jackson is playing?
If Jackson plays, it probably gets down to 4.5, 5.5. It doesn't. It definitely does not get down to a field goal spread. But it will not be more than a touchdown. I think it also conversely, if it comes out official Jackson is not playing, I see this spread jumping to 10.5.
So
this is kind of a we'll meet you in the middle, see what happens. And to me, that what I believe this is trying to tell you is we think Jackson's going to play, but he ain't going to be anywhere near 100%. And as a running quarterback, that's a much bigger deal than a non-running quarterback.
So the last time when he was healthy, the last time they played, when everybody was let me verify that everybody was healthy in this game, was October 9th. Okay. In that game, they did not have T. Higgins. Okay. And that game ended 19-17. And Burrow threw a pick, threw a touchdown, 200 yards. Lamar Jackson threw a pick, threw a touchdown, ran for 58 yards, passed for 174 yards. I'm really curious in this game of a couple of things. One, if Jackson plays and the Ravens are sitting at, and the spread goes down to 4.5, if you took them at +6 just to see it, I'd be curious what that looks like.
So if we cut the spread down to Baltimore only +6.5 opposed to +8.5. You're looking at 126. And I know the direction you're going with this, Bob. This is why I do the 13 or less bet. Flat out honest with you.
But I don't think the Ravens are going to win the game.
I don't think so either. Despite the fact I know the Ravens have a better coaching staff. The Ravens, and this is a philosophical comment for the offseason, the Ravens philosophically have destroyed their offense by going in with Lamar Jackson. They are not capable. If this game becomes Cincinnati can block Baltimore's pass rush, Baltimore will lose by 50. Because there is no way Baltimore's offense can keep up with Cincinnati's offense. However, I don't see Cincinnati blocking the Ravens. So I look at this and go, realistically, there is little spark possible in terms of big play from the Ravens. There is infinite spark possibility from Jamar Chase. So I look at it as being like two campers in a forest after the rains just came down. One has the ability to make fire and one doesn't. Who's going to get it done first?
So what has me interested, and I don't know if these are up yet. Let me check on that. Is the Jamar Chase reception total? No, they don't have that up yet. I'd be curious when it does come out. So right now he's sitting at 74 yards. I believe in the last game he went over that.
He always crushed it. He did not go over it in
the first
game. He crushed it. He got 80 some. So he did go over it.
But he didn't go
Jamar
over
Chase has the best career numbers of any receiver against the Ravens defense.
So if you are taking if you decide to go in with this, I'd also be curious with the reception total, where that will be sitting at when it comes out. Joe Burrow at 265. I think he goes under 265. See, there's what I'm talking about. It says passing and rushing for Joe Burrow. That's bull that they don't have that for Austin Eckler yet. And I think that Joe Burrow interception, yes, is going to happen.
Okay.
Again, I still think Cincinnati's going to win the game, but the Ravens' defense is so good. If you wanted to get crazy with things, I think the way that Baltimore stays in this game is with a defensive touchdown. And
you missed an easy one there, at least in my opinion, an easy one on the receiving yards. Boyd and under 35, or Christian 37.5. To me, it is a pretty easy one. It's just not going to happen. It's just the way it is. And then the way that I see this game ultimately getting won is Mixon over 57.
57
on the ground.
On the
Or
ground.
87. I can read good. 57.5 on the ground. Mixon running more than that.
So, Joe, here's the trap. Here's the trap you're falling for. With Tyler.
Tell me about it. Because I don't have the big one on there.
This is the Tyler Boyd trap. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Boyd trap is similar to the Gabe Davis trap that you consistently are falling for and consistently go for. Is that this guy can go the way of the dodo and get 16 yards.
Mm-hmm. He can get games with 2 targets.
But he did have a game this year where he got 8 targets or 8 receptions for 155 yards.
That was the game where neither Higgins nor Chase finished.
Against Kansas City. So in the game against Kansas City, which Kansas City has, it's not a great defense. Where is that game at? God dang. Okay, there it is. Bengals won that game 27-24. In that game, Chase went off for 97 yards. Higgins went for 35 yards. And Boyd went for 60. So if I see where you're getting at. I know where you're going with it. And I would tend to agree with you. But I feel like it's too trappy. And I'd avoid it.
The other one, as I said here, is the under. I personally don't like doing a whole lot of over-unders. I'm not going to put it on my thing, but this is one where 40 feels like that's a little bit generous on the over-under.
Well, if it
that being said, as I said before, though, Cincinnati can block it. They can get 40 by themselves, and this whole thing falls apart. But given the way that I think it is, I think Baltimore's defense just blows through them. There's a lot up in the
air for this game. There's a lot up in the air still.
There's a lot in the air, and I mean, at the end of the day, the only way the Ravens stay in this game is by running the ball. Mm-hmm. That leads to unders in everything. And I can see that it ultimately, if Cincinnati is tired of watching Burrow get sacked, which I believe is going to happen, just becomes Mixon, save us.
Is there a sack total on here? Because I know sometimes they put it on, sometimes they don't. Depends on the type of game.
Yeah, it would be under passing.
No, it would be under defense. It's not under passing.
Yeah. No, it's not up there yet.
Not up there yet.
All right, to the final one of the night here, Bob. Make sure I got the screenshot.
Oh, no, here it is.
The Ravens games. Because as we said, every single one of the...
Hold on. Baltimore Ravens to record 5+ sacks versus Cincinnati is plus 750 in the game specials.
Ooh. I like that.
6 sacks is 2,000. And 7 is 5,000.
I might do one of each. Because if we're going to go for it, let's just go for it. Right? Because that way you get paid each one along the way. Those are always fun.
Yeah, those are always stacked.
Thank you for finding that, Bob. All right, so let's end to the final game of the playoffs, the Monday night game. Dallas going in to Tampa. I want to start this game by mentioning that I have this is my only cross game parlay with the exception of my 13 or lesses.
Okay.
There is the bet: does both team complete their first pass? And there are two games I feel incredibly strong with that in.
Oh, that
This
he's not
is the
gonna, yeah, they're not.
no,
gonna
they
do
both
that.
will.
In this game.
It's this game, Tom Brady and Dak, and Herbert and Ty Law.
I would disagree.
Oh, I believe that especially in the younger quarterbacks case, they're going to give them nice, easy layups. And with how bad Dak is getting run through the ringer, I think they're going to give him a nice, easy ease into the game type plan. And in the first half, particularly, Brady takes easy buckets. He just does.
Yeah.
So it's not the biggest parlay in the world, but of all the games to have both of them complete their first pass, that's the one I would go with. And then the other one that if Lamar does not play, I actually would think that would be the third one to throw in, because you want to look for teams that are going to ease in their quarterback and have simple early throws. And that's really what I see from these two games.
So why don't you do a yes, 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 no, no, no?
Because to bet on Geno
in.
Smith not to complete it easily could be a dump down checkoff. Geno Smith's the reason I don't want to do it in the first game.
Okay.
I'm not doing it in a game where in fact, it's actually not even listed in the Miami game or the Baltimore game.
Yeah,
so
quarterbacks aren't up yet.
They aren't up yet. And I mean, Kirk Cousins' gunslinger, man. He might throw that first one 500 yards down the field. It'd be like, oh, J. Jeff should have caught that, but it didn't. So I know that. Here's my other part. There's not a bet for this. Collectively, those four passes together, I don't think get 20 yards. I think one of them is a -3 screen pass. And they're just easy checkdowns. So Brady loves doing that. Dallas has to do that. And, at the end of the day, the riskiest one of those four is Herbie, but Herbie to Eckler happens a lot early in games. So I just want to point that out there. This is an official parlay with the Jacksonville game as well, both of them on the yes category.
Okay.
So throw that out there. It's also a fun bet to know you won, I don't know, 40 seconds into a game.
Early on. Yeah.
That being said, Bob, hit me up with some knowledge.
All right. This game, I'm gonna watch it because it's, it is on, but I'm not gonna enjoy myself watching it. I'm really gonna hate watching it because we said this earlier in the season about Tom Brady, is that we said that he was gonna make the playoffs. We said it's probably gonna be gross.
It was.
And he got his stuff together and has conceivably and to a degree here played better over the last several weeks. He's fired up. He's winning. He's feeling happy.
No.
He's winning and feeling happy. And when a happy Tom Brady is a good Tom Brady. And in this game, particularly coming off what has happened last week and the week prior, Dallas is such a friggin' wild card. It's unbelievable. Because we have seen games where Dallas looks really, really, really good on defense or on offense. And then the next game, they look like straight garbage. As Sean McCoy put it on air, Dak Prescott is ass. And he said it twice. He said, and he it's true. He has not made the leap to this point in time where we in fantasy football or in the NFL, watching the NFL, where we would want him to be.
I have an answer for that. I believe Dak Prescott is being held back by the reins of the glass ceiling of his quarterback.
That's fine, but he ain't good. And because he's not good, I would tend to say, yes, Dak Prescott is going to get an interception. And yes, Tom Brady is also going to be intercepted.
Absolutely.
This game will happen. I also think that if there is a sack here, that Tom Brady will get sacked by Dallas's defense. If there's a game special or something about sacks, I would tend to lean on to that as well. Micah Parsons to record a sack, totally possible. DeMarcus Lawrence to record a sack.
Opening kickoff to the house at negative payout is stupid.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I like this game special. Parsons will get a sack and Cowboys
win. Yeah, I just
win.
read that. Yeah. As you look at these game specials, Chris Godwin to do 25 yards in each half, that's a possibility. It's a low, it's plus 130, it says there, but he could go on the first play for 30 yards, not see the ball again until the second half, and then get another 30-yard catch, and all of a sudden he has 2 receptions, 60 yards.
I like the Evans at 40 each half even more.
So we know that these two franchises and the players on these franchises, at least for Dallas is much maligned. And Brady, it's a hey, what did I come back for type of season. And for me, when that's on the line, Brady is going to play lights out. Yes, he's going to get picked off, and Dallas is going to play up to the challenge. But I do think that Tom Brady throws for over 2 touchdowns. I don't know what the line is at.
All right, let me finish all of my props. I just started clicking there because I think he's getting sacked like crazy, and I think he's going to hate life. So we are diametrically opposed on this game, or that needs to be declared up front. So go to your to get your passing things here. Passing. You have Brady, the 230, the 273, 273.
I don't have him over 273. I have him if they put up a touchdown prop. If they put up a touchdown prop, I think he throws for over 2 touchdowns.
They don't have that up.
Is what I'm saying. They don't have it up.
Gotcha.
It's eventually probably going to come up.
It will. Yeah.
But Joe, I really can't tell you if I'm looking at what Dallas is doing. Like I said, sometimes they look phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times they look like just straight garbage. And it's so difficult to trust anybody on that team to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult to trust this line too, because the line is set because they don't know. Like, this is the game that I feel that Vegas and Sportsbooks don't know.
So here's the facts going into this game.
Like Brady at 273 against the Dallas defense that should be good. That doesn't.
Well, that's because they can't run the ball. The correlation to the Brady at 243 is Fournette only at 38. I mean, that's the fact there.
I get it. But those defensive lines that you just put up for Dallas's team to get all those sacks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Bucs have a lot of injuries on their offensive line as well.
And they don't have a running game to get them off of it.
So those numbers are way lower than what Baltimore's numbers were, right? Because
which means it's more likely.
Right, I get you. It's more likely to happen. However, I'm looking at what Tom Brady has statistically done over the last several weeks, and we're going to not include the game against Atlanta because he only played a half, or whatever. And this shows from what I'm just tracking what you're saying now for everybody, is that they don't have a running game. So in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all season, he has if you take his whole season, he has only thrown the ball and disclude last game, every single game except for 1, 2, he has thrown the ball, and if we even discount that game, that's the third game, he has thrown the ball 40 plus times.
Mm-hmm.
And every single game, he has put up, except for a couple, over 200 yards. And so the under here is actually, it's a little scary, but I think Dallas's defense is better. That's why I'm saying the under makes sense with the game script that we think is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he throws for 2 touchdowns.
For that point, Bob, about not knowing what teams are showing up. When they played each other in week 1, everyone's fresh and happy. Tampa wins it. But since then, Tampa has effectively been horrible the entire season. They came out of a gutter division, and with the exception of him hitting a couple of deep bombs to Mike Evans, the season has been a complete disaster for Tom Brady.
I get it, but it's the playoffs.
It is the playoffs, and only one game matters and all that fun stuff. I know all that, but look at
what he came back for.
I understand all that, and I think that the back of his jersey is going to have so much grass stains on it.
I'm not disagreeing with you with that.
And at the end of the day, he's going to be chucking the ball to Evans, and he's going to chuck the ball to Evans because he's going to be losing.
I think it's perfectly possible for Dallas to get 6 sacks against Tom Brady. I think that bet is so possible. But what I also think is possible is that Dallas is a similar gutter trash as this team.
Difference is they're a 9-win gutter trash team, though. They were 9-4 at one point. Tom Brady will get the 9 wins till next week.
That's fine. But they're both, I think that they both have talent on the team somewhere, and they're not using whatever talent that they have in the correct way. And this game feels like a game based off of what we have seen for Tampa and for Dallas, a game that's going to end 17-13, 17, with maybe a safety up in there. I could totally see a safety happening in this game. If you're going to pick a game with a safety, this is the one. Oh,
there's going to be enough sacks in it. That's for sure.
Because this game just feels like one of those 17-13, 21-20, where it's going to be really disgusting to watch, and Brady's going to end up winning, and every news story is going to be like, hey, Tom Brady, you came back for a reason. Looks like you're moving to the next round of the playoffs. How you feel? That's totally what's happening.
I'm with you on that, Bob. At the end of the day, we disagree about who's going to win it, though. Because my bet is I see this being close. I don't see Brady getting embarrassed, but I do see Dallas winning it. I know you're so sad over there that I just did that, but that's where I'm at.
I mean, okay. I mean, I
see Dallas winning it. At the end of the day, this is a very balanced game in terms of rosters.
It's a pick 'em.
It should be a pick 'em.
I mean, looking at that plus 150 versus the plus 190 for Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I know what Tampa is bringing to the field. Okay, and my battery's about to die, but I know what Tampa's bringing to the field. And I know what they're bad at.
Sure.
I don't know what Dallas is going to do, what Dallas is going to bring to the field, because
if Dallas is doing it correctly, it's going to be a lot of Zeke.
Right? But this game just screams to me like a game where Tom Brady, being Tom Brady, is going to do Tom Brady things and win. And it's going to be so disappointing come Tuesday morning, and you're sitting there and you're like,
I know for a fact there'll be at least one scene in that game where Tom Brady is screaming at everyone because he's been hit too hard. And what I fundamentally think is going to happen is this team is going to not care anymore.
But I don't think Dallas can score. That's the other thing.
Oh, I disagree with that. I am more confident about Tom Brady losing his team than Dak losing his.
Because Dak doesn't have his.
Oh, that's not true at all.
Disagree.
There is no. You don't hear anything in the locker room conversations about people not wanting to be around Dak or not liking Dak. You hear those articles and read those articles about Brady. Those are facts. And at the end of the day, I think he's going out really regretting life. And I hope he's screaming. Just like the one soap opera I hate more than is Aaron Rodgers retiring, which he started himself last weekend, is Tom Brady coming back. And both of those are about to get refired up. And he's going out a loser. He's going out a loser on his own home field, covered in stupid grass stains, hopefully with a little bit of that red midfield mixed in there.
Disagree. ESPN will not allow that to happen 2 weeks in a row.
That is why this is going to be great.
They will not allow their golden boy.
Oh, there's going to be some stupid flags. Dallas Cowboy fans will be so annoyed. We will get more crybaby text than anyone else.
Similar to how Drew Brees went out with a bang. Aaron Rodgers, if he's going out with a whimper. But for their goldenest boy in the world, there is the NFL has probably told the refs in this game, as they do every single game, and this is Conspiracy Theorist 101.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Protect him.
And that doesn't count as a sack if there's a flag. That's the theory I have on that 6-sack bet. But I still think they're doing it.
Him. They are going to protect him at all costs because they want a last-second Tom Brady drive to win a game against America's team.
And I want the opposite. I want Tom Brady to fail on that drive for the first time in his career and not get the flag thrown.
The funny thing you say that is that, here's the thing that I believe is most likely to happen. First quarter, second quarter comes along. I think Dallas will probably have racked up maybe 2-3 sacks by the end of the second quarter. They're like, oh, the refs are like, oh, what are we doing? Tampa's down by 3, right? End of the second quarter comes around. Tampa's down by 3. Third and fourth quarter come around. Refs are going to, Micah Parsons, whoever's getting the sacks, refs are going to start throwing flags in the third quarter to get Tampa Bay back in this game. 100%. That's what's going to happen.
That happens in a lot of playoff games.
Fourth quarter comes around. It's about tied. Okay. So I feel that maybe you're at 14-14, maybe 13-13, maybe 17-13, somewhere in there. You're tied. Mm-hmm. And so Dallas will probably get another sack in the fourth quarter, but then Brady will go on camera and start complaining about it, and he'll be visibly mad at the referees. Then he'll start jawing at all of his offensive linemen. Dak goes down.
Oh, I think that's happened midway through the first quarter, dude.
Dak goes down, scores again. And Tom Brady now has to put a miracle drive together. Mike Evans is going to get the ball 4 times on the drive, and Tampa is going to end up kicking a field goal or something to win the game. And they're going to be like, oh, my God. And everybody from Dallas, you know it because you watch this show if you're from Dallas. If you're from Dallas, y'all going to come on that night on the Twitter, on the YouTube, and you're going to say, I can't believe these refs, but you do believe it because you know the NFL and you know how much they screw people, and you know that they want Tom Brady to be up against Patrick Mahomes in the last Super Bowl that Tom Brady's going to be in, and you want Tom Brady to go out on top, and that's what ESPN wants. That's what the NFL wants. That's what they were going to try to make happen.
Listen,
and I will guarantee that if that is what the NFL wants, they are going to at least try to make it happen. I'm not saying it will.
If he somehow does get out of Dallas and not get sacked, that he's knocked out of football, he will not get out of San Francisco. That pass rush is scary. And let's not even talk about Philly. So that's there.
It's
This is going to be a fun game. We're going on.
hard slate.
Cowboys fans, I'm with you. Just like, let's put it out there.
Slate. But
I'm mostly against Brady, but I'm with you, Cowboys.
Do not write off Tom Brady. That's all I'm saying. People were doing it early.
I know. I've heard that for 20 years, Bob.
It's back. And it's there for a reason. I'm sorry. Like, it's there.
And I'm done with it. I was done with Alabama winning every national title. That eventually stopped.
I'm done with it too. I get it. But all that the cards are pointing to us saying this is Aaron. They tried it with Aaron Rodgers, right? This is Aaron Rodgers potentially last season, but then he was probably like, I'm not sure.
And guys knee bit.
Right? He's like, I'm not sure if this is my last season. And Dan Campbell's like, this. And I guarantee you they will not put Detroit on national primetime television again because of what they did to Aaron Rodgers. They don't want that to happen again. They don't want it to happen again.
I want that.
But they don't want it. The NFL doesn't want it, so they're not going to do it again. You watch. Next year, Detroit will not have a primetime game.
That was Detroit's only primetime game this year. The last one of the season.
They will not have it. But back to Tampa. Tampa is – they will want Tom Brady to go as far as they can. And you know it. I know it. Everybody knows it.
But if you can get NFL, Dallas, San Francisco, that is a ratings gold mine.
They know that the NFL, it's hard. They're having a hard time walking away from Tom Brady.
Yeah.
The NFL in general is having a hard time walking away from Tom Brady. Still sells tickets. Still wants to be there. But there are better teams than Tampa. And they're going to try to get Tampa in.
The other 13 that are in the playoffs are all better than Tampa. Yeah.
Right?
This is a problem. But at any rate, as we include here, obviously this is the only game we disagreed about in depth here. We took some dogs. We took some favorites. Hopefully y'all are with us because it's going to be a money-making weekend, people. And to give thanks and a shout-out for everyone that's watching here, our Seattle guest, Madonna Hannah, will be on, what was it? Let me quote this here correctly. Will be on the Today Show on Monday morning, people. So check it out. Monday morning at 9:30. Our Seattle guest, Madonna, will be on the Today Show.
That's a good spot for Seattle to win.
it could be. Could be. I just don't see it happening. Well, with that being, people, we'll be with you next week.
All right. Peace.